Good day, grade 12 learners. Welcome to today's business studies lesson. This lesson is brought to you by Gauteng Department of Education in association with Sci-Bono Discovery Center. And this will be broadcasted by Pagama Research and Development. Today we look into business studies, grade 12, and the main topic we look into is the business environment. And the subtopic we look into is business strategy, which is the last topic in our term 1. And this will be assessed in your paper 1. And I am the presenter, Sidiso Tlaka. Let us look into our lesson objectives. This is what we should understand by the end of this lesson. So at the end of this lesson, you should be able to outline or describe or explain the strategic management process. You should further be able to discuss the following industry analysis tools, which is your SWOT analysis, your Porter's 5 forces, and your PESTEL analysis. You should also be able to explain how PESTEL factors pose a challenge to the business, and you should describe or explain or discuss the differences between the different types of business strategies. And then you should also recommend or advise businesses on the steps in strategy evaluation. So that would be basically our lesson. Now, terminology that is important for our lesson is the term formulation of a strategy, which refers to the process of devising or developing a strategy, or I would say it is a process of making a strategy. Then we also have implementation of a strategy. With implementation of the strategy, we are basically saying this takes place after the formulation, meaning during the formulation, the business would be making a strategy. So after the strategy has been made, then the business has to implement a strategy. So this takes place after the formulation of the strategy, and it involves now all activities that are required for putting the strategy into action. And then when we are looking into evaluation of the strategy, this will take place after the implementation of the strategy, and it determines whether the implemented strategy will resolve the challenge. And then we also have industry analysis tools, which refers to your SWOT, your Porter's 5 forces, and your PESTEL analysis models, which are used to analyze the challenges posed by the business environment. So in order for a business to be able now to formulate, implement, and evaluate their strategies, they need to be able to scan their environment so that they know what is in their environment, and when they have the information that would be obtained from the SWOT analysis, meaning the microenvironment, and the Porter's 5 and the PESTEL, which is Porter's 5 would basically scan the market environment, and your PESTEL would scan the macro environment. Then when they have information from the 3 different environments, they can then now formulate, implement, and evaluate their strategies. And then we also have supplier, which is a terminology that is important for this lesson. A supplier includes factories or providers of goods or services that businesses would obtain or buy from in order to operate their businesses. Then we also have buyers, which refers to the final users of a product or service. And then we also have substitute products or services, which refers to different products or services that satisfy the same needs of consumers and can be used to replace one another. Then we also have new entrants, which refers to new businesses that are selling the same or similar products entering the market for the first time. So those are your new entrances. Let us proceed. The focus of our lesson will be on the strategic management process, and we will have the industry analysis tools and the types of business strategy. Now, what is important to understand with business strategy is that this strategic management process will involve the industry analysis tools, and it will also involve the business strategies. However, the strategic evaluation is the last part, which will only be in isolation. But when we look into the strategic management process, in your process of managing the strategy, you need to use the industry analysis tools, and you also need to apply the business strategies for you to be able to do a successful strategic management process. So that one is very important to say whatever that is happening under the strategic management process, it will also involve the industry analysis tools and the types of business strategies. And then we'll explain that during the lesson. Let's start with our definition to say what is a strategy. How do we define the term strategy? Strategy is a long-term plan of action to achieve a goal. So this is a long-term plan to say this is how we want to achieve profits as a business. This is how we want to win customers as a business. So it is a long-term plan of action on how a business wants to achieve their vision or mission. And as we proceed again, a strategy can also be referred to as a plan of action to address an opportunity or to solve a problem. So a strategy can also address an opportunity that can occur between the three business environments, which is your micro, market, and macro. And then it can also be a way to solve a problem that a business might be facing, maybe coming from the three business environments again. So it is basically a plan of action to achieve a goal, and again, it's a plan of action to address an opportunity or solve a problem. And then as we proceed, the business strategy, the business needs a strategy to achieve its vision and mission, because without a strategy, without a plan on how they're going to utilize their resources, on who they are competing with, and how they're going to fight competition, and how they are going to overcome competition, they will not be able to achieve their vision and mission. So basically, a business has to battle, like we see every day with people who play chess. Chess is a game that needs strategy so that you are able to protect the existence of your king. So even with the business, they will try to fight and compete and try to win their competition against competitors, and not forgetting that there are other factors that cannot be controlled. Hence, we talked about the business environment to say the business environment also brings challenges, because the business would have to understand that there's one environment they control, and the other two environments they can only influence, and the other one they cannot control at all. So let's look into the first part now of our lesson, which is the strategic management process. What do we mean with the strategic management process? And you should know that we have two options of explaining the strategic management or process. It can either be option 1 or option 2. Let's start with option 1. When a business is conducting your strategic management process, a business needs to have a clear vision, a mission statement, and a realistic objective in place so that they are managing. Because what is key here is that a business already has a strategy in place. For instance, when a business is started, they would say we want to provide quality. Let's say the main strategy here, the main strategy of the business main is to provide what? Quality. Let's say is to provide quality. So if their main strategy is to provide quality, when they are doing the strategic management process, they are basically managing their main strategy, which is to provide quality. So let's see how they are going to manage that strategy. They are going to start by checking if they have a clear vision, a mission statement, and a realistic objective in place. That's the first part. So they go and assess their objectives. They go and check if whatever they want to achieve as a business is realistic or not. Then the second part is to identify weaknesses and strengths by conducting environmental scanning, or what we call situational analysis. So they will have to scan the environment in order to identify their weaknesses and strengths. That's number 2. Number 3, they have tools available to identify those strengths and weaknesses. So tools available for environmental scanning may include SWOT analysis, Porter's 5 forces, and pastel elements or pastel analysis. So SWOT analysis will scan the microenvironment which is inside the business, while the Potter's five forces would scan the market environment by checking the buyer, by checking the supplier, by checking the substitute product and the competitor, while the pastel now analysis would be looking into the broader environment, the political environment, the economical environment, the social environment, the changes in technology that might be there, the legal environment to say which legalities have changed in the business environment, and the environment on its own to say now, are they not polluting and so forth. So that is your pastel analysis. So if a business now is scanning the environment, they scan three environments in order to identify their strengths and weaknesses. So these are the tools the business would be using. And then as we proceed, after that, remember they have the main strategy, which is to provide quality to their customers. So when they are doing strategic management, they are basically managing their current strategy or their current main strategy, which is to provide quality. So when they've scanned the environment using the SWOT analysis, the Potter's five forces, and the pastel analysis, they have to now have information to say this has happened in the environment. So we need to come up with an alternative. So the main would basically be the first strategy, but then when we are looking into formulating an alternative strategy, this would come now as a second option. Hence, we call it an alternative strategy. It doesn't mean the main strategy will not be working, but it simply means now they have to add another strategy to deal with whatever information they have received while they were doing the environmental analysis, while they were scanning the micro, the market, and the macro. So they come up with alternative strategies to respond to challenges they might be facing from the three business environments. And those strategies that they can apply, they can either choose integration, they can choose intensive or diversification or defensive strategy in order for them to be able to deal with the challenges from the environment. And then as we proceed, they would have to develop an action plan which will include tasks to be done to say, since we have an alternative strategy, we need now an action plan. An action plan would help the business to implement the alternative strategy we spoke about, which can either be integration, intensive, or diversification or defensive strategy. And then furthermore, they would have to implement the selected strategy by communicating it to all stakeholders. So they would implement now by communicating to the stakeholders who are involved in the process, and then they would also continuously monitor the strategies in order to take corrective action if there's any mistake in the process of applying now the alternative strategy, which I said they would formulate based on the environmental scanning that has taken place. Then we have option 2 of our strategic management process, which is the shorter version of what we talked about. So the first one is that, remember, they have the main strategy, again, the main strategy, which is to provide quality. So they would have to review or analyze the vision statement or mission statement. Furthermore, they have to conduct an environmental analysis using models such as PESTEL, Potter's 5, or SWOT analysis. As I said, this is shorter. Then they will formulate a strategy such as the defensive or integration strategy, which can be your integration, intensive, diversification, and defensive. This is what we only deal with for grade 12, but there are many strategies. And then as we proceed, they would have to implement a strategy using templates such as the action plan. Remember in your grade 11, you did your action plan, which can be the timeline, the Gantt chart, where you explain how you're going to do your plan, how you're going to implement your plan, and then they can control or evaluate or monitor the implemented strategy by identifying gaps or deviations in the implementation process. Then they will take corrective actions to ensure goals and objectives are met. So as we proceed now, we look into the industry analysis tools. However, what is important is to know that when we are talking about the industry analysis tools, we are still talking about the strategic management process to say how will the business do the environmental scanning or the environmental analysis. So this is how now they are going to do the environmental analysis. So through the industry analysis tools, and we have three tools that we use, which is firstly the SWOT analysis, and it scans which environment, the micro, which is inside the business. We also have the Potter's five forces, which scans which environment, the market, where buyers and sellers meet. So it scans that environment. And then we also have the pestle elements, which scans now the macro environment. Here we're talking about the political, the broader environments that the business have no control over. Now, let's start with the first one, which is the SWOT analysis. SWOT analysis, we are basically looking into the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths and weaknesses would derive inside the business. They would come from inside the business. So when we are looking into the strengths, we are saying, what advantages does your organization have? And we are also saying, what unique or lowest cost resources can you draw upon others that you can draw upon that others can't? So basically, the strengths of a business are basically things the business have while other businesses would not be having. And then we are also saying, does the business have skilled employees who are able to contribute to the success of the business? So the strengths of the business would basically be things that the business have while other businesses, or whereas other businesses don't have. So basically those are the strengths of the business. And remember, these scans which environment, micro environment. And then when we are looking into weaknesses, we are looking into what are the weaknesses of the business. Weaknesses can be high cost infrastructure, high employee turnover, and a weak brand portfolio can also be considered to be a weakness of the business. So remember that both your strengths and weaknesses scan only the internal workings of the business, scans only the internal workings of the business. But we also have opportunities and threats which now occur outside of the business. Opportunities can be market growth for the business product. It can also be new technology that will enhance the quality, service, and products. It can also be an increase maybe in disposable income levels, which have increased. And it can also be what good opportunity can you spot as a business to say maybe they want to add a new feature. Then threats can be corporate tax may increase, which can be a threat to a business because it means they have to pay more. And then rising pay levels, which may require them to pay their workers more money. And then it can also be intense competition. Maybe another business has just recently joined the market and they're bringing a new product. That can be competition. And then an increasing fuel price can also be a threat. An aging population, meaning a business would have to adapt to new consumer taste and habits. So that is your SWOT analysis. And when it comes during the exam, it will come in a form of a scenario whereby they're talking about one of the strengths, one of the weaknesses. Just know that the strengths should be about the business. They should be about the business. And then the weaknesses also should derive from the business, but inside it should be talking about the employees, high employee turnover, difficult employees. Those, you know that those are weaknesses. And then when you're talking about strengths, you're talking about what they can do better than other businesses. But opportunities is an opportunity maybe outside of the business. It should not involve employees. It should not involve any machine that the business has inside. But immediately we're talking talking about machines, employees, then we know that we are talking about strengths. But opportunities can be an idea that people are having more money to spend. That can be considered to be an opportunity because it is outside. And then when we are looking into threats, threats can also occur outside when they're talking about an increase in tax, the increase, maybe rising pay levels, intense competition, increase in fuel prices, which makes it difficult for the business to operate because they would have to increase their prices as well. So that is your SWOT analysis, and it scans the microenvironment. Let's move into another industry analysis now, which is the Porter's 5 forces. This Porter's 5 now scans the market environment. It scans the market environment. And remember, these would be part and parcel of your strategic management process, especially when they say these tools available for environmental scanning include SWOT, Porter's 5, and PESTEL. So Porter's 5 forces, we have 5 forces. The first one is the supplier. Remember, the supplier provides raw material or provides products for the business to be able to sell. So when we're looking into Porter's 5 forces, basically this theory focuses on analyzing the position of the business in the market environment to say, does the business have power over their suppliers or not? You know, the suppliers come on trucks to provide their raw material to the business. So one, if we are analyzing the position of the business in the market, the business would have to assess the power of the supplier in influencing prices to say, can the supplier influence the prices, meaning can the supplier make the business to increase their prices or not? So that is the first part. They assess. Remember, to assess is to check. They check the power of the suppliers in influencing the prices of the goods that the business is selling. That's one. Number two, suppliers that deliver high quality products may have power over the business because they are providing quality. So that as well has to be assessed to say, okay, this supplier can have power to control or have power over the business because they are providing high quality products, which we cannot get from any other supplier. So it means that supplier is more powerful. But remember, the aim is to assess the position of the business between the business and the supplier. And then the other one is that the more powerful the supplier, the less control the business has over them. So it means it is the power relation issue here to say, because the business now has less power over their suppliers, then it means the business would have to listen to whatever the supplier is saying, and they have to comply basically with what the supplier is selling. And then we have the power of the buyer. The power of the business again would be assessing how easy it is for buyers or customers to drive down the prices. They would look into aspects such as how many buyers are there in the market. That is one. And then another one is that the buyers buying in bulk can bargain for prices in their favor. So that is the power the buyer has over the business to say, when they buy in bulk, the business will end up driving down the prices or giving those businesses discounts. And then the business would have to conduct market research to gather more information about its buyers. So basically, the business is trying to manage their strategy. And in the process of managing, they need to know who has power between the business and the supplier, who has power between the business and the buyer, so that they can come up with alternative strategies, which we are going to talk about as the lesson proceeds. And then we have the power of competitors and or competitive rivalry. So here the business is checking who has power or the position between the competitor and the business. As you can see, there's competition there. Remember, the competition is to say who will make more profit between the two businesses. So if competitors have unique products or services, then they will have more or greater power than the business. That's one. Number two, a business with many competitors in the same market has very little power in their market, because it means that business has to share their profit with a lot of businesses. So it means they have little power and they cannot control the market, or they cannot be that dominant. And then as we proceed now, we look into the threat of substitution or substitutes. So remember, even with the power of the competitors or competitive rivalry, if now the competitor has a unique product or service, then they will have greater power over the business. And then the business would have to see that and record that to be on their information, to say information from the market environment says now our competitor is better than us. Or another one can be the idea that a business the business, as a business in our industry or in our marketplace, we have many competitors, so we have very little power because of too much competition. So in that also has to be recorded to say what can we do as a business. And then we look into threat now of substitution or substitute. So remember, your substitute products are products that can replace one another, although they're not the same, but they satisfy the same need with your tea and coffee. And then for example, and then if the business's product can easily be substituted, it weakens the power of the business in the market. That is one. Then number two, the business has to establish whether the sellers of the substitute products have improved their product, or they are selling lower quality goods at a lower price. That also has to be established so that they know that whoever they're competing with, are they competing with them on the basis of quality or not? That way they are going to be able to attract more and more customers. And then when we move into threat or barriers of new entrants into the market, so the business now is checking whether is it easy for a new business to start selling in the same market or not. Let us look at it. One, if barriers to enter the market are low, barriers are very low, meaning it is easy for a new business to start selling the same product that is being sold by the business, then it is easy for new business to enter the market or industry. So basically, they have to assess whether does one need more, or does another owner need more money to start the business or not? So that is what we are talking about when we're talking about the barriers to enter the market. Are they low? If they are low, then it is easy for a new business to start selling. Think about a lady who sells fat cakes in a corner. It is easy for another lady to start selling the same fat cakes tomorrow and another one to join in. So it means the entry to that market is very easy and the barriers are very low. However, when we go to the banking industry, is it easy for someone to start a bank just like that? No, because the capital required to start a bank is a lot of money. So it becomes the barriers to enter into the banking industry, they are very high. So that's what we are talking about. So the business has to assess that, check the position to say, is it easy for another business to start selling what we are selling or not? And look into such aspects. And then as we move, if there are few suppliers of a product or service, but many buyers, it may be easy to enter the market. So that also can influence whether is it easy or not to enter into a new market. And then furthermore, if the business is highly profitable, it will attract potential competitors that want to benefit from the high profits as well. So if the business is profitable, definitely other businesses or other people or other investors might want to start a brand and start selling as well, so that they can share on the profit because the business is profitable. So that is how you assess or how you deal with the Potter's five forces. The focus is on how, not what. Do not explain what the barriers to enter, what is the power of the buyer, what is a competitor. We know. Just explain the power relation between the business and the buyer, to say who has power between the buyer and the business. Who has power between the buyer and the supplier? That is how the how part is needed here. The how part to say, how can a business fight their competition with the supplier? So they record that information to say between the buyer and the business, the buyers can drive down the prices. Between the buyer and the supplier is providing quality. So the supplier has control over the business. So that is the information that would be needed during exam. Do not explain what is a supplier. Do not explain what is a buyer. Then as we proceed, pestle factors, we have factors that are there, and then you should know them. 6 factors, you should know that they pose a challenge because this is from the macro environment. So they pose a challenge, and the business would have to come up with alternative ways or strategies to deal with those challenges from the macro environment. Now, the first factor is political. So challenges that can come from the political environment is the idea that some government policies may affect the businesses, and then trade agreements may prevent businesses from importing some medicines or products. However, recommendations to deal with those challenges from the political environment can be the business would have to research recent government policies, and then they would have to ensure that maybe to deal with this trading agreement issue, to ensure that they trade only with countries that have favorable trading agreement with the government of South Africa. Because if now they are trading agreements prevent the business from importing some medicines or product, it means the business would not be able to sell to other international countries. So that can stop a business from making profit. And then when we are looking into the economic factors, loans may be expensive due to high interest rates, and then fluctuations in the foreign currency may restrict importing because it might be expensive to import for other businesses. But then when you're looking into recommendations, they would have to borrow money from financial institutions when interest rates are favorable. So that is how to deal now with the issue of loans being expensive due to interest rate. Then the business would have to borrow money when financial institutions or with financial institutions that have low interest rates or interest rates that are favorable. And then fluctuations in the foreign currency, they should consider the exchange rates when trading with other countries, meaning the business would have to check which countries would have favorable exchange rates, so that when they decide on selling to those countries, they know that they are going to benefit. And then as we proceed, we have social. Social, these are challenges now from the social environment, which basically means customers may not be able to afford products due to high unemployment, maybe caused by COVID. Another one is that businesses may not be conversant with the language of their customers. So that can also be a challenge because now social, we are talking about what is happening in the communities. However, the business would have to sell generic or sell substitute or generic products at a lower price, or learn local languages, or hire employees who are well conversant with the local languages. Because when we are talking about selling generic products at a lower price, we are basically trying to ensure that the business would still make profit. And then technological, these are technological challenges that the business might face from the macro environment. The businesses may not keep up with or be aware of the latest technology. And then another challenge can be the idea that employees may not be skilled to operate or maintain new technological equipment. However, when we are looking into recommendations, the business would have to continuously research on the latest available technology or equipment in the market, or train existing or appoint new employees to maintain the use of the new equipment. And then as we look into the last two is your legal and environmental. Legal environment can come with these challenges towards the business. Certain acts may have a direct impact on a business. e.g., your Consumer Protection or your Basic Conditions of Employment Act, because a business has to comply, and then legal requirements for operating certain types of businesses may be time consuming before you can start operating those businesses. And then when we look into recommendations now, the business would have to comply with all the relevant legislation which may impact on a business, and they would have to comply with the legal requirements for operating a business, such as your trading license or your trademark registrations or patents. And then when we are looking into environmental now, they will have to know that these can be the challenges. The challenges can be chemicals or ingredients in a business products which may be harmful to customers, and then measures to dispose of business waste which may be expensive. So those are challenges from the macro environment. And then when we are looking into recommendations by the business, a business would make sure that chemicals or ingredients should be clearly indicated on the packaging to inform customers about the possible side effects or correct use of the product. And then they would have to implement cost effective measures to dispose of medical waste. So those are your personal factors and recommendations on how a business can deal with those challenges from the macro environment, which is an environment the business has no control over. So that is your personal factors. And then as we proceed now, we have types of strategies. Remember, with your strategic management process, this is still the process. You start by ensuring that you do your strategic management process, having a clear vision, mission, and realistic objective, scanning the environment or identifying strengths and weaknesses by scanning the environment. So after you have scanned the environment with the tools available, which is your SWOT analysis, your Potter's 5 forces, and your personal factors, then what do? You need to come up with what? Alternative strategies, such as your what? Your integration, such as your intensive, such as your diversification, and the last one, your defensive. So those are your alternative strategies, not forgetting that you have the main strategy. And I said, for example, the main strategy for a business might be to provide quality products. So with these alternative strategies now, they differ because each strategy has a way and has advantages. So when we are looking into integration, this is the strategy that focuses on merging on or taking over other businesses. But when we are looking into intensive, is a strategy that focuses on making sure that the business wins a lot of customers. And then when you are looking into diversification, it's about adding a new product that might be related to the existing one. And then when you're looking into defensive, it's about the business trying to operate and maintain profit. So that is your types of business strategies. Let's take a 5 minutes break so that you maybe check out your notes before I start explaining your types of business strategies. Let us now proceed with the explanation of the types of strategies. We'll start with the first one, which is the integration strategy. We have three types of integration strategies, which is your forward vertical integration, your backward vertical integration, and your horizontal integration. Remember, I said this is a strategy that focuses on mergers or takeovers. Now, forward vertical integration. For us to understand integration, it is important to understand the supply chain, which is your primary, secondary, and tertiary. So we know that most raw material are taken out from the primary, then moved to the secondary, and then moved to the tertiary. The secondary would manufacture or convert your raw material into finished products or goods. Then the tertiary would offer services or would be retailers that sell the products. So with forward vertical integration, the business would combine with or takes over its distributors. So basically, if a business is operating under the primary sector, the tertiary sector or the secondary sector and the tertiary sector is the distributor of that particular business. So the business combines with or takes over its distributors. So if maybe you are talking about primary, let's just say one farming business, let's say chicken farming. So if a chicken farming business takes over its distributor, which might be maybe KFC, if it takes over KFC, then we know that this is forward because this business that is in the primary sector is moving forward and taking over their distributors. So the business would be combining with or taking over its distributors. And then when you're looking into backward vertical integration, the business combines with or takes over its suppliers. So basically it would be KFC taking over now. KFC would be taking over the chicken farm. So that is your backward because remember, KFC is in the front of the supply chain because they're the ones that offers and that sells the fried chicken to the final consumer. Because what you should understand about the supply chain or the relationship between the primary, secondary, and tertiary is that the end user, which is the customer, becomes the front line for the supply chain because the aim is to determine where the product comes from its raw nature to its how it is converted now to being the final product. So the business combines with or takes over its suppliers. And then when you are looking into horizontal, a business takes control of other businesses in the same industry which produce and sell the same goods and service. So with horizontal, basically it would be KFC taking over your chicken licken. So that would be considered to be now what your horizontal because these two businesses are in the same industry, which is the tertiary sector. But then when we're looking into backward, the business is moving back to their supplier. So basically, they are buying their supplier. Let's talk about clothes because maybe those is something we're familiar with. Nike is in the secondary sector. And then who's their distributor in South Africa? Their famous distributor can be Sportscene. So if now Nike is taking over Sportscene, that is considered to be forward because Nike is moving towards the final user, which is now the customer. Remember, Sportscene doesn't make the sneakers, but they sell for Nike as a brand. So they are the distributors. So when the business combines with or take over their distributors, that is considered to be forward. However, when we are talking about backward, it is when Sportscene decides to take over or merge with Nike. Or when we are saying take over, it means Sportscene is buying Nike. But when we are saying merging, it means they are working together as a business so that they share resources. So we should understand that forward and backward. But then when we're talking about horizontal, for an example, a business like Nike, we would say Nike is taking over a business in the same industry, which can be Adidas. Adidas. So then that is considered to be horizontal because they're in the same production line or they're selling the same goods and services. So let us check the example chicken farm. So when a chicken farm is taking over a business that is their distributor, which can be KFC, this is considered to be what? Remember, this is a vertical line. They said forward vertical. So when now the chicken farm, is taking over a business in the tertiary, which is KFC, this is considered to be forward because the chicken farm is taking over your what? Your KFC. But then when now KFC is taking over the chicken farm, this is considered to be backward. However, when now KFC merges or takes over Chicken Licken, this is considered to be horizontal integration. So hoping you understood, especially with the use of these businesses that you know about. So when Chicken Licken is taking over KFC, it is still considered to be horizontal integration. But when a chicken farm is taking over KFC, then we know that is forward and then vertical integration. But when KFC is taking over a chicken farm, that is considered to be backward because the chicken farm is the supplier for KFC, because without the chicken farm, then KFC will not have their raw material, which is the chickens that they sell to the customers. And then we have intensive strategy. With intensive strategy, we have market penetration. Market penetration, this strategy is about making sure that the business attracts a lot of customers. So with market penetration, basically a business penetrates into the market. So they penetrate by ensuring that new products penetrate an existing market at a lower price. So a new product that is not known would be penetrating the market at a lower price, meaning they would have to know about this at a lower price until it is well known to the customers, then the price will increase. So that is market penetration. And then when we are looking into market development, it is when now what is key here is to understand that a market refers to customers. So with market development, it is a growth strategy where a business aims to sell its existing products in a new market. So they have their existing product. So the aim is to sell their existing product in a new market. For example, you can use this as an originality during your essay to say if market development happens. Now, market development is when what? A growth strategy where a business aims to sell an existing product in a new market. This happened with a well-known company which was called the BlackBerry, which was selling cell phone devices. When BlackBerry came to South Africa, it was already existing in the United States of America, USA. However, they were losing customers. So they came to what now as a South Africa. But the South African market or customers, when they saw the product, they saw a new product to them. However, the product was existing in USA. So to them, it became a new product. So that is market development, selling your existing product in a new market. So maybe let's say you have an existing product in Pretoria, but then you start selling that existing product in a new market, which might be selling that same product, but you will be selling the product in now Johannesburg or in another province, an existing product in Gauteng, but then you go and sell it in Mpumalanga. Customers in Mpumalanga, when they see the product, they will see a new product to them. So that's what we mean with your market development. And then when we are talking about product development now, we are talking about a growth strategy where a business aims to introduce a new product into an existing market or modify an existing product. So this is about now introducing in an existing market, you add features to your existing product so that it becomes new, or you add a new product altogether so that you are able to process. Hence, we call it product development, because here the development happens through the product. And then as we proceed now, we have intensive strategy. Again, remember, market penetration is about those big sale promoting the product. And then we also have this is now an example I wanted to use for market development to say the product might be existing in the Northern Cape, But then if you take this existing product in the Northern Cape and sell it maybe in Limpopo, then you know that customers in Limpopo will say this is a new product. That is how market development works. It can be from one province to another, from one city to another city, from one township to another township. We know that is your market development, but your product development basically would be, you know, this is your iPhone X, and then it was in the market, existing in the market, but then now we have iPhone 13, which is now your, or iPhone 12 or 13, to say those are new products to the market. So they were modified, and that would be considered to be product development, because the market is still existing, but then they're adding or they're modifying their product. And before, that's how the camera used to look, but then now after the modification, now we see three cameras at the back. That is your product development, modifying a new product, your existing product, or adding a new product into the market that is already existing. But then with market development, we are talking about what? Selling an existing product in a new market, which can be a new place where they don't know about the product you're selling. And then advantages of intensive strategies, that they increase now, increase in sales or income or profitability, and then regular sales to existing customers may increase because of your modification, introducing new products, lowering the prices, because remember, with market penetration, you lower the prices so that customers can continue buying as well. And then you gain customer loyalty through effective promotional campaigns, and then improved service delivery, which may positively impact on increase of sales. And then we also have to eliminate competitors and dominate the market prices. So that is the advantages of intensive. And as we proceed, a decrease in price could influence customers to buy more of the products, which will increase the profitability, and businesses can have more control over the prices of the products or services. And then we have diversification, which is a strategy about adding a new product that might be related or unrelated to the existing product that the business is selling. So we have concentric diversification. So with concentric diversification, the product adds, or the business adds, a new product or service that is related to the existing product and which will appeal to new customers. So that is your concentric diversification. Remember, the word diversification is from the term diverse, which means to be different. So when a business is applying the diversification, which is to have diverse in their product, it means they want to have different products for different customers, so that they don't focus only on one product when it comes to making profit. So for example, the business would add a new what? Product or service that is related to the existing product and which will appeal to new groups of what? Customers. So basically is when your iPhone added a watch, or when your iPhone added a tablet, or the MacBook. So, or when your Apple company added an iPhone to their iPad, and they also added a MacBook. So basically, what they are doing, they are trying to add a product that is related, because with features on the cell phone and features on the iPad, they are basically similar. So hence we say it is related to the existing product, and which will now appeal to a new group of customers, because some customers might say, I don't want to use the iPhone, but I want to use their iPad. I don't want to use their iPad, but I want to use their laptop, so, or their MacBook. So it depends on, or it allows now for the business not only to focus on the iPhone, not only to focus only on the profits of the iPad, not only to focus on the profits of the MacBook, but to have diverse products in the market. As we said, diversification, having different products which will target different groups of customers. And then horizontal diversification, a business will add here new products or services that are unrelated or different to the existing products, but which may appeal to existing or current customers. For example, when Woolworths added now your Woolworths food to whatever they were selling. Remember, they were selling clothes, but they added what? Woolworths food. So the same customers who were buying clothes in Woolworths opted to buy the food now in Woolworths. So they have tried to appeal to the current customers, to the current customers. And a proper example maybe for concentric is to say they're adding a new product that is related, is your Mr. Price. Mr. Price, when Mr. Price Clothing was selling clothes, some people would say, okay, we don't want to buy clothes there. So they added now another range to say Mr. Price Sports. Even if you don't wear Mr. Price Clothing, but clothes, remember Mr. Price Clothing and Mr. Price Sports, they are selling clothes. Just that the focus here is the sports items, but then here's your luxury items just to wear for your casuals and so forth. So they have added a new product that is related to the existing, which is clothes. They are both offering clothes, but the focus here is that the clothes for sports. But this Mr. Price doesn't offer clothes for sports, so that is related. The products is related to the existing. So whatever new product which was added is related. However, when we are coming here to unrelated, when Woolworths added food and clothes, those are not related. So that's what we mean. But they try to exist the current what customers. And then when we are looking into conglomerate diversification, the business will add a new product or service that are unrelated to the existing products, which may appeal to new groups of customers, So basically, you would look into Disney. When we're looking into Disney, Walter Disney, which offers entertainment, your Mickey Mouse and all that, when they started their company, their aim was to entertain people and make sure that they entertain kids with their cartoons. But their television, so that was media and television, but then they moved now by adding what clothing to say now we also sell clothes. And we know that the television industry does not link with the clothing industry. So that's what we mean with concentric diversification or conglomerate diversification. They are adding a new product or service that is unrelated to the existing product, which may appeal to new groups of customers. So that's what we mean. Then we move now to the advantages of having diverse products is that it will increase sales and business growth. That's one. Two, it improves the business brand and image. Furthermore, and reduces the risk of relying only on one product. So it means if people are not watching Mickey Mouse on TV, but there'll be kids who are buying the Mickey Mouse t-shirt in a maybe Woolworths and you Mr. Price and what you see. So they don't rely on only one product. Similar to Mr. Price. If people are not buying the Mr. Price clothing, someone will be buying Mr. Price sports clothing. So they don't focus only on one product. And if you can check, your Pick and Pay is also doing the same thing. If you can check your Mr. Price also has added another range, or in their products they've added your Mr. Price home. They're selling couches, they're selling home decors and so forth. So that is a way to now make sure that if you're not making profit in terms of the one product, you're also making products with other products. So it is reducing now the risk of relying only on one product. And then as we proceed, more products can be sold to existing customers and additional more new markets can be established because we have more customers now to focus on. And then businesses gain more technological capabilities through product modifications. And then we also look into the idea that diversification into a number of industries or product line can help create a balance during the economic fluctuations. So during the difficult times, we know that if you're not winning customers from your other product, you will win customers from another item. Then businesses produce more output using less input, as one factory may be used to manufacture more products. And then we have the defensive strategy. So remember, this is still part and parcel of the strategic management process. We started by checking if the business has a clear vision, mission, and objective. We looked into your industry analysis tools, your SWOT, your Porter's 5, and your pestle factors. And then we looked into the types of strategies. So when it comes to choosing strategies, you can choose integration, you can choose intensive and diversification. But if those strategies don't work, then a business would choose the last resort, which is the defensive strategy. The first part would be divestiture or disinvestment. So with divestiture or the defensive strategy, the business is trying to fight an obstacle, which is a difficult situation they are not able to cope with. So the first application of the defensive strategy would be the divestiture or the disinvestment, when the business sells some assets or divisions that are no longer profitable or productive for the business. And then we'd also have what retrenchment, whereby the business would be terminating the employment contracts of employees for operational reasons. And then another one would be liquidation, which should be all assets are sold to pay creditors due to lack of capital or cash flow. So basically liquidation would be the last part to say if all has failed, then the business would apply liquidation. And liquidation meaning now all assets are sold to pay creditors due to lack of capital or cash flow, money coming in of the business, or selling the entire business in order to pay all what liabilities and close down. This is very key. However, do not confuse this divestiture with liquidation, because with divestiture, the business sells some assets, but with your liquidation, selling the entire business or all assets are sold. So that's liquidation. The business is basically closing down. So the business is closing down. So that is your defensive strategy. And remember, the aim is to try and operate the business until all fails. So when all fails, meaning divestiture has failed and retrenchment has failed, then the business would resort to liquidation. So that is your defensive strategy. Let's look into the strategic evaluation process now. The strategic evaluation process is the process of checking now whether the strategy applied is working or not. So that is evaluation. Evaluation is to study something carefully. As you can see, the gentleman on the picture is studying everything carefully to check if it is working or not. And then strategic evaluation process, one, the business would do that by making sure that they examine the underlying basis of a business strategy to say what is the main aim of the strategy. If maybe we look into those alternative strategies, if you choose now integration as a strategy, the underlying basis of integration is to take over another business or to merge with another business so that you reduce what your dependency from the supply. That is integration. But then when you are looking into the underlying basis of intensive strategy, which is your market penetration, your product development, and your market development, the underlying basis of those strategies is to what? Is to increase the number of customers by either moving from one place to another and selling to a new group of customers, which would be considered to be what? Market development. By reducing the prices so that you increase the number of customers as well for a new product, or by introducing a new product into an existing market. So those are the underlying basis of the main strategy or of the different types of strategies. With diversification, the aim is to make sure that you have different products so that when another product is not making profit, you make profit from another one. So you have to examine the underlying basis of each business strategy and then look forward and backward into the implementation process to say before the implementation process what was happening, and after the implementation process what is happening. So basically you'd say before I implemented the market development or the intensive strategy, and under the intensive strategy maybe the business applied what we call market penetration, they lowered down their prices, then you'd know that before we had only 20 customers, but after the market penetration strategy now we are having 200 customers. Hence we are saying look forward and backward into the implementation process to say forward into the implementation, we have 200, but backward we had 20. So you are basically looking into the implementation process of the strategy to say, is it working or not? Remember, this is evaluation, checking for results to say, is everything happening the right way or not? And then you compare expected results in order to determine the reasons for deviations and analyze these reasons. So if, for instance, the results didn't turn out to be 20 to 200, maybe they were from 20, you moved to 10. You have to determine reasons for deviations to say what went wrong during the implementation process. What did we do wrong? Did we do something wrong internally, or what went wrong? So you analyze or you determine reasons for deviations of the strategy to say what could have went wrong, and then you analyze these reasons, and then after analyzing these reasons you take corrective what action. Remember, this is now when you are dealing with this. When you were looking backward and forward, you realize that before you had 20, but now you are having 10 customers. It means you have lost 10 other customers. So you will take corrective actions so that deviations may be corrected, and set specific dates to control and follow up, and then draw up a table of advantages and disadvantages of a strategy, and then decide on the desired outcomes, and then consider the impact of the strategic implementation in the internal or external environment of the business. So that is your strategic evaluation process. Remember, it's the process of checking whether the strategy is working or not. Check deviations, check what could have went wrong, hence we say deviations, and then you take corrective action. You fix those deviations that they have to be corrected, and then you set days to control and follow up. You draw up a table of advantages and disadvantages to the strategy, and then decide on the desired outcome to say this is what you want to achieve, and then consider the impact of the strategic implementation, whether was the problem internal or external, so that you are able to determine what went wrong. And remember, you cannot do this if you did not do a proper environmental analysis. You should know, because sometimes it can be an external factor, which maybe can mean that the business was not able to assess or check the competitors, whether they have more power than them or not, meaning they didn't check the Potters 5 very well, or they didn't check the pestle. For instance, during COVID, politically, businesses were affected because they were stopped from operating, or they were stopped from selling, and they had no control over that. So some businesses had to be sold, some businesses had to be liquidated because of that. So some aspects of your strategy would have to be smart. Hence, some businesses after COVID, they moved to online platforms just to try and sell to customers online. So those are aspects that you should look into when you are now doing your strategic evaluation and your strategic management process. So now let us look into typical exam questions. We have a scenario 2.3. Read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. These are your typical exam questions. So we have now a scenario. Read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. We have a Mehi Trading Enterprise. Mehi Trading Enterprise is experiencing a decline in the demand for their products due to what high rates of unemployment caused by COVID-19 regulations, and then a trade agreement between South Africa and China may prevent a Mehi Trading Enterprise from importing some of their products. So some of MTT's employees are not skilled to operate new equipment. So there you are expected to identify 3 now what pestle factors that pose a challenge to Mehi Trading Enterprise, and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario. So remember, go back to the scenario, read it, understand, be able to determine what are the factors, and you should remember to know that when the question is asking for pestle factors, know how many factors are we talking about. So we are talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you should know that I'm expected to identify 3 from the 6 so that you don't make mistakes and you don't end up coming up with concepts that are not even under the business strategy topic. So make sure that you master that. To say pestle has 6 aspects, so I should identify from the 6. Rather be wrong for identifying maybe another pestle that was not required, rather than coming up with your pestle element which is not there. So with Messi Enterprise, they are experiencing what? A decline in the demand for their products due to high rates of unemployment caused by the COVID-19 regulations, and then a trading agreement between South Africa and China may prevent MTT from importing some of their products, and then some of MTT employees are not skilled to operate the new equipment. So with the first one here, you need to assess whether who's being affected here. Is it the business? No, it's not the business, but these are the people who have to buy. So the answer here would have to be what? If we are saying the people are existing in the society. So in the society, we know that the answer there should be what? Social for the first one. And then when we are looking into a trading agreement between South Africa and China, which may prevent MTT from importing some of their, so that one you need to think to say who's here? The government. So the government, this would be what? Political. And then when we're looking into some of MTT employees are not skilled enough to operate new equipment, meaning the new equipment has technological what? Advances. So the answer here would have to be what? Technology. But then let's see how you would answer that. Use the table below as a guide. So your factors should be here and your motivations should be here. Now let us see the solution. Mainly trading enterprise. The question again, identify the 3 personal factors that pose a challenge to MTT and motivate your answer by quoting from the scenario above. So the first one, social, 2 marks for that. Yes, because the people are being affected here. Mainly trading enterprise is experiencing a decline in the demand for their products due to what? High rate of unemployment and caused by what? Your COVID-19. So that's 1 mark for motivation. Remember, quote, take it as it is from the scenario. And then with political, 2 marks, a trade agreement between South Africa and China now prevents the what? Because politically South Africa doesn't have an agreement, then it means now from the scenario you are experiencing a political issue. So that's 1 for motivation. Technological, some of the employees are not skilled to operate the new equipment. It means they don't have technological capabilities. So that is 2 marks and the total is 9 marks. That's how you get. Remember, quote as it is. Make sure that the challenge you have identified or the personal factor links with the motivation. Make sure always and make sure that you code the personal factors according to the sentences. Remember, the first one is the one from social, the second one is the trading agreement, and the third one is on technology. So just put them that way so that you don't lose marks over such errors. And then typical exam questions again, identify the Potter's 5 forces applicable from the scenario statements below. We have 1.1, we also have 1.2. KDF has many competitors, which leads to less profit margins. And then 1.1.2, Lion's Wheels is the only supplier in Tembisa, hence they charge higher prices. Then we have 2, read the scenario below and answer questions that follow. Here we have a scenario, Togoza Electronics, TE. Togoza Electronics sells electronic devices in Togoza, and the business has seen a drop in sales since customers do not afford goods sold due to unemployment caused by COVID-19. And then already you should be knowing what is the answer, because for as long as customers are affected, customers live in the community, and when communities are combined, we call them the society. So the societies combined is social. So when we're talking about social, you know that those is or that is a social or personal factor, and then suggest strategies to deal with that personal element identified in question 2.1. Now, solutions, we have the first one now, KDF has many competitors, which leads to less profit margins. So the personal or the Potter's 5 force that is implicated there is the power of the competitor, obviously, because now KDF has many competitors. This was your clue. This was your tip. And then power of the competitor, 2 marks for that, because you're just required to identify. And then 1.2, Lion Wheels is the only supplier in Tembisa, hence they charge high prices. So you should know, because they're talking about suppliers, the power of the supplier, 2 marks for that. And the total is 4. And then as we move, the scenario, we have Thokoza Electronics, which sells electronic devices in Thokoza, and the business has seen a drop in sales since customers do not afford goods sold due to COVID-19. Then the answer is social, because as I said, social, because the issue is affecting customers. And then the motivation, the business has seen a drop in sales because customers do not afford goods sold due to unemployment caused by COVID-19. So that's your 3 marks. Then as we move now to strategies to deal with the pestle element, 1, sell substitute or generic products at a lower price, 2 marks. And then learn local languages or hire employees who are fully conversant with the local language, that's 0.4. So that's basically how you deal with the social problems. And then we have another typical exam question. Remember, we started with the Potter's 5 forces now, or we started with the industry analysis tools. Now we're looking into assessments on now your strategies. So identify the types of integration strategies that Susan Manufacturers applied in each statement below. We have 2.1.1, Susan Manufacturers took over Andres Furnitures to gain control over the direct distribution of their products. That's one. 2.1.2, Susan decided to merge with John Timbers to reduce the dependency on the provider. And another one, 2.1.3, they merge with Tembi manufacturers in order to reduce the threat of substitute product. So that's 6 marks. And then let's think about it. Your integration. You see, you should be clear. The question is focusing on integration. But if the question was identify the types of strategies or business strategies, you would know that you should focus on 4: integration, diversification, your intensive, and defensive. But then here, integration, the focus is on only 3. So Susan Manufacturers took over Andres Furnitures to gain control over direct distribution of their products. Susan also decided to merge with John Timbers to reduce dependency on the provider, and they have merged with Tembi manufacturers in order to reduce the threat of what substitute products. So you should look into the businesses. You see, Susan manufacturer in the secondary sector who took over Andres Furnitures, who sells now the furniture that Susan has manufactured. But Susan here also decided to merge with John Timbers. So John Timbers now provides Susan with what raw material. However, here then they merge with Tembu manufacturer. Now Tembu manufacturer and Susan manufacturer, they are in the same industry. So it's very important to understand the industry so that you are able to score your marks. So that is that. Now you should know that when you're talking about Susan 2.1.1, these should be forward. I'm thinking that's my approach. I don't know with you forward, but then Susan decided to merge with John Timbers. I'm thinking this is your backward. This is your backward, and I'm thinking the last one with Tembi and Susan merging, I think this is horizontal. But let's see the solution now. Discuss 3 types of intensive strategies after that. So let's see the solutions. As I said, the first one I said is your forward. Was I correct? Let's see. Yes, I was correct. 2 marks for that, because Susan now is secondary, but Andres is tertiary. So when a business in the secondary sector takes over a business in the tertiary, that business is moving forward to the supply chain. And then 2.1.2 backward, yes, because now John is a supplier of raw material to Susan. And then that's 2 marks. Then they merge with Term B manufacturers in order to reduce the threat of substitute product. That is 2 marks as well, because now Term B and Susan are in the same industry. Then let's see the explanation of your types of intensive market penetration, 2 marks, and then new products penetrate an existing market at a lower price until it is well known to customers, and then the price is increased. That's 1. Then market development, 2 marks for that, because it is a growth strategy where businesses aim to sell existing products in a new market. That's 1. And then as we proceed, product development, 2 marks as well. And then it is a growth strategy where businesses aim to introduce new products into an existing market and modifies an existing product. So that's 1. And then you get your total of 6. The other one will not consider, but we had to mark anyway. Then, summary of our lesson. We focused on business strategies. We looked into the strategic management process together with the industry analysis tools and the types of business strategies. And we also looked into the strategic evaluation process. So with your industry analysis tools, we looked into SWOT analysis, which scans the microenvironment, and we also looked into Potter's 5 forces, which scans the market environment, and the pastel elements, which scans the your macro environment. So remember, this is part and parcel of the strategic management process. And then as we proceed, we also have types of strategies, which also form part and parcel of your strategic management process, whereby we talked about formulating alternative strategies, which can be integration, which can be intensive, which can be diversification, and defensive. And remember that under integration, we have 3 types of integration. Under intensive, we have 3 types of intensive. Under defensive, diversification, we have 3. And under defensive, we have 3. And remember, integration is about taking over. You should remember we have forward, backward, and we also have horizontal. And then intensive, we have market penetration. We also have what? Your product development and your market development. And under diversification, we have concentric diversification, we have also horizontal diversification, and we also have conglomerate diversification. And then defensive, we have the divestiture, we have a retrenchment, and we also have liquidation. So those are the 3 you'd find under each type of strategy. And then the last part was our strategic evaluation process. So that is basically it. With your strategic evaluation process, you'd have to look into where the underlying basis, examine the underlying basis of the strategy. You also look into the forward and backward of the implementation process of the strategy. That's where I said you look to say before you had 20 customers, but after the strategy, if you have 200, it means now the strategy is working. However, if you before you had 20 and now you had 10 customers, you know that the strategy is not working. You would have to what now analyze so that you identify or determine reasons for deviations, and then after that you take corrective action, set dates and follow up, and control and follow up, so that you fix whatever that might not be going well under your strategic evaluation process. So that is the end of our lesson. Thank you for watching.